Troy just knew things was going to happen before it even happened, and he didn't share his information with nobody. Troy was that instinctive. Whatever he saw on tape, whatever he saw on the field, he didn't hesitate on seeing it, believing it, and making that play.
There will never be another Troy Polamalu. He didn't just play defense. He played like he could see the future. Troy Polamalu would jump over the offensive line exactly as the ball snapped, intercept passes that weren't meant for him, and hit ball carriers so hard their ancestors felt it. In 2008, he did something that still doesn't make sense on film. He read the Ravens' offense better than their own quarterback, jumped a route in the AFC Championship Game, and took it to the house for a pick-six that sent Pittsburgh to the Super Bowl. The safety position was never the same after Troy Polamalu touched it.
I always say, well, he plays with his hair on fire.
There will never be another Troy Polamalu. But how did a kid who almost quit football become the most unpredictable defensive weapon in NFL history? Why did he play like he was operating on pure instinct and football telepathy? And what made him so utterly impossible to game plan against? Chapter 1. The Rise, from Doubt to Dominance. Troy wasn't born in some football hotbed. He was born in Garden Grove, California, but raised in the tiny town of 10 Mile, Oregon. His mother, Suela, moved the family there to get Troy away from the gang violence that plagued Southern California. Troy grew up in a house full of love, Samoan culture, and uncles who taught him that family comes before everything, including football. Here's the thing most people don't know. Troy almost quit football entirely in high school. He was getting hit in practice, taking punishment from bigger players, and started questioning if this was really his path. As the story goes, his uncle sat him down and told him something that changed everything. You're not just playing for yourself, you're playing for all of us. Troy showed up to practice the next day with a different mindset. He wasn't just a player anymore. He was a warrior representing something bigger. By his senior year at Douglas High School, Troy was a two-way star, playing running back and safety, returning kicks, basically doing everything except coaching the team himself. College recruiters were circling, but Troy wasn't some five-star phenom getting offers from every powerhouse program. USC took a chance on him, and Troy took that opportunity like his life depended on it. At USC, Troy became a legend. He played with this reckless abandon that made coaches nervous and offensive coordinators terrified. He'd line up 8 yards deep, then somehow materialize at the line of scrimmage the instant the ball was snapped. He'd diagnose plays before they developed and blow them up in the backfield. In his junior year alone, he recorded 118 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 1 sack, and 2 interceptions, earning consensus All-American honors. Over his college career, Troy totaled 278 tackles, 6 forced fumbles, and 6 interceptions. He was USC's team MVP and was selected first-team All-Pac-10. The kid from 10 Mile was now the most feared safety in college football. The Pittsburgh Steelers selected Troy with the 16th pick in the 2003 NFL Draft.
With the 16th selection in the 2003 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Troy Polamalu, safety from Southern California.
They needed a playmaker in the secondary, someone who could change games with 1 tackle, 1 read, 1 moment of pure football genius. What they got was a player who would redefine what it meant to play safety at the highest level. Chapter 2. The Weapon. How Troy tackled like nobody else. Before we dive into the legendary moments, you need to understand something. Troy Polamalu didn't just tackle people.
Man, I was watching a clip of Troy the other day and I turned it off so quickly, right? Because it did not end well for us.
He detonated them. Troy tackled like a black and gold lightning bolt, fast, violent, and perfectly placed. He never hit just to hit. He hit with purpose. His tackles were compact, explosive, and eerily efficient.
Troy had the unique ability to affect the game in so many different ways. Troy was just such a physical player that he was just like he was shot out of a cannon. He was that fast that athletic, and he was fearless.
He didn't waste steps. He didn't flail. He struck through them. His signature body position was low, almost like a wrestler shooting for a takedown. He bent his hips, tucked his shoulders, and fired upward through the ball carrier. This made him almost impossible to square up. He got under blockers. He blew up screens. He was a safety who hit like a linebacker, but with the speed of a corner. And here's what made Troy different. There was zero deceleration, ever. Unlike most defenders who gather before contact, Troy hit at full sprint. When he closed like a missile with a locked trajectory. You didn't hear him coming. You just felt the collision. Troy consistently took angles that shouldn't have been possible. He could knife through gaps and appear from blind spots like he teleported. Ball carriers had no idea where he was coming from until it was too late. He turned geometry into violence. And Troy's greatest secret? He didn't need to hit the hardest. He hit at the perfect moment. Screens, reverses, bootlegs, crossers. He showed up at the exact split second to destroy the play. This is why he made so many tackles behind the line of scrimmage. This is why he recorded 12 sacks in his career as a safety, a position that's not supposed to get sacks. Polamalu's tackles weren't just technical, they were theatrical. They felt like moments. They felt like statements. When he blew up a run, the stadium reacted differently. It felt like the defense's energy source had just detonated.
It was one of the most athletic plays I've ever seen. Troy was working across the field and got blocked and spun around and tackled the ball carrier with his back.
Chapter 3, The Legend, When Instinct Became Art. From his very first season, Troy was different. Most rookie safeties spend their first year learning the playbook and avoiding mistakes. Troy spent his rookie year making Pro Bowl veterans look slow. He finished his first season with 38 tackles and showed flashes of the chaos he would soon unleash on the entire league. But it was 2004 when Troy truly arrived. He recorded 97 tackles and 5 interceptions. That season, Troy made his first Pro Bowl and established himself as one of the most dynamic playmakers in football. Quarterbacks started checking to see where number 43 was before every single snap, because if you didn't know where Troy was, you were about to have a very bad day.
He's number one in terms of him making a play, and one of the analysts who we work with turns to me and they laugh, saying he had no business being there making that play. He's just a freelancer and he's always at the spot where he needs to be.
Then came 2005. And Troy put together a season that belonged in a highlight film. He recorded 91 tackles, 2 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, and became the heart and soul of the Steelers' defense. Pittsburgh marched through the playoffs like a freight train, and Troy was the engine. They steamrolled Cincinnati in the wild card round, survived a war with Indianapolis in the divisional, and dismantled Denver in the AFC Championship. The Steelers were heading to Detroit for Super Bowl 40 as the first 6th seed to ever reach the big game. Standing in their way? The Seattle Seahawks and one of the most explosive offenses in football. February 5th, 2006, Ford Field. 68,206 fans packed into the stadium, the entire city of Pittsburgh holding its breath. This was it. The moment Troy had dreamed about since he was a kid in 10 Mile, Oregon. The game was a dogfight from the opening kickoff. Seattle came out swinging, but every time the Seahawks thought they had momentum, Troy was there to kill it. Second quarter, Seattle driving. Matt Hasselbeck dropped back looking for tight end Jeremy Stevens down the seam. Troy read it instantly. He closed on Stevens like a heat-seeking missile and delivered a bone-rattling hit that jarred the ball loose. Incomplete pass. Drive stalled. That's what Troy did. He didn't just make plays, he erased entire possessions with one violent collision. Third quarter. Steelers up 14-10, but Seattle was pressing. The Seahawks were moving the ball, trying to take the lead. Troy was everywhere. reading plays before they developed, flying downhill to stuff runs, covering tight ends like he was a linebacker safety hybrid sent from another dimension. He finished the game with 4 tackles, but the stat sheet doesn't capture what Troy did that day. He was the emotional heartbeat. He was the spark. Every time his teammates needed energy, they looked at number 43 flying around with that hair streaming behind him, and they found another gear. When Willie Parker broke loose for a 75-yard touchdown run to put Pittsburgh ahead 21-10, Troy was the first defensive player celebrating on the sideline, jumping up and down like a kid who just won the lottery. When the clock hit 0 and the confetti fell, Troy dropped to his knees on the Ford Field turf, tears streaming down his face. The kid who almost quit football in high school was now a Super Bowl champion. Pittsburgh 21, Seattle 10. The Steelers had won their 5th championship, and Troy Polamalu had his first ring. But Troy wasn't satisfied with one ring. He wanted more. He wanted to cement his legacy as the greatest safety of his generation. There will never be another Troy Polamalu, because what came next was pure football sorcery. The 2008 AFC Championship Game against the Baltimore Ravens wasn't just a game, it was Troy Polamalu's masterpiece. The Steelers were hosting the Ravens at Heinz Field, and the winner was going to the Super Bowl. Baltimore's offense was methodical, physical, and quarterback Joe Flacco was having a strong playoff run. But Troy had been studying film all week, and he'd noticed something. A timing pattern the Ravens loved to run in the red zone. 4th quarter, Ravens driving. Steelers up 23-14, but Baltimore was moving the ball. Flacco dropped back, looked right, and threw what he thought was a safe pass over the middle. Except Troy Polamalu had diagnosed the play before it happened. He jumped the route with such perfect timing that it looked like he'd hacked into the Ravens' playbook. Troy caught the ball at the 40-yard line and took it to the house. A 40-yard pick six that crushed Baltimore's spirit and sent Pittsburgh to Super Bowl 43. The Heinz Field crowd erupted. Commentators lost their minds. And Troy? Troy just did his signature hair flip and jogged to the sideline like he'd just made a routine tackle. But that play wasn't routine. It was football poetry. It was instinct meeting preparation, meeting pure talent. That interception was the dagger, and Troy had delivered it with surgical precision. 2 weeks later, Super Bowl 43. February 1st, 2009. Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. The Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Arizona Cardinals and their explosive offense led by Kurt Warner, Larry Fitzgerald, and Anquan Boldin. The game was an absolute war. Troy was flying all over the field, recording 2 tackles and providing the emotional spark the defense needed. 4th quarter, Steelers up 20-14, less than 3 minutes left. Kurt Warner launched a bomb to Larry Fitzgerald, 64 yards for a touchdown. Cardinals 23, Steelers 20. The stadium went silent. Pittsburgh's season was on the brink. Troy stood on the sideline, eyes blazing. We're not losing this game. Ben Roethlisberger took the field with 2 minutes and 37 seconds left and drove Pittsburgh down the field. With 35 seconds remaining, Santonio Holmes made one of the greatest catches in Super Bowl history, tiptoeing the back of the end zone for the touchdown. Steelers 27, Cardinals 23. But Arizona still had time. Warner had 29 seconds and 2 timeouts. The Cardinals moved into Steelers territory. This was it. Everything on the line. Troy and the defense took the field one last time. Warner dropped back. Troy disguised coverage, making him second-guess every read. 3 incomplete passes. 4th down. Last play. Warner threw a desperation pass. Lamar Woodley stripped the ball. Fumble. Game over. Troy fell to his knees, tears of validation streaming down his face. 2 Super Bowl rings, 2 championships in 4 years. The kid from 10 Mile wasn't just a champion, he was a dynasty. But Troy's greatness wasn't just about the championships. It was about the moments that made you stand up and scream at your TV. Like that legendary play against the Tennessee Titans in 2010. The one where Troy jumped over the center before the snap, got into the backfield, and disrupted the handoff before it even happened. The Titans' offensive line stood there confused, wondering how a safety was in their huddle. That play became known as the A-gap jump, and it was the most Troy Polamalu thing ever. Completely unpredictable, perfectly timed, and utterly devastating. Or that other legendary line jump against the Ravens, where Troy timed the snap so perfectly, Ravens coach John Harbaugh protested to the refs, claiming Troy was offsides. Officials ruled he was not offsides. Troy was perfectly timed. Legal play. Harbaugh's face was priceless, and Troy had just added another holy shit moment to his growing legend. But if you want to understand the Steelers-Ravens rivalry, if you want to know why these two teams hated each other with such passion, you need to watch what Troy did to Joe Flacco on December 5th, 2010. This wasn't just a play. This was the moment that defined everything. Heinz Field, late afternoon, Ravens at Steelers. The AFC North was on the line. The game was tied 10-10 with under 3 minutes left. Baltimore had the ball, driving into Pittsburgh territory. One score wins it. The entire season hanging in the balance. Joe Flacco dropped back on 3rd down, looking to extend the drive and set up a game-winning field goal. Troy had been watching film all week. He'd noticed Flacco's tendency to hold the ball just a fraction too long when his first read wasn't there. Troy had timed his blitz perfectly all game, waiting for this exact moment. The Steelers dialed up the pressure. Troy came off the edge like a heat-seeking missile. Flacco never saw him. Troy exploded through the line untouched, his low-leverage tackling style turning him into a torpedo. He didn't go for the sack. He went for the strip. Troy's right arm whipped through Flacco's throwing hand with surgical precision, ripping the ball loose before Flacco could even process what was happening. The ball popped into the air. Ziggy Hood recovered at the Ravens' 26-yard line with 2 minutes 51 seconds left. Heinz Field exploded. The Steelers' sideline went berserk. And Troy? Troy stood over Flacco for half a second, his hair wild, his eyes blazing, sending a message that echoed through the entire rivalry. You will not beat us here. 4 plays later, Rashard Mendenhall punched it in for a touchdown. Steelers 13, Ravens 10. Game over. Season saved. The strip sack on Flacco wasn't just a big play. It was the play that reminded the entire league why Troy Polamalu was the heartbeat of the most feared defense in football. That was vintage Troy. Perfect timing, controlled violence, and an instinct for the exact moment to strike that bordered on supernatural. In 2010, Troy won the NFL Defensive Player of the Year award. He recorded 63 tackles, 7 interceptions, returning 1 for a touchdown, 2 forced fumbles, and was recognized as the best defender in football. The Steelers' defense that year was legendary, and Troy was the reason why. He made the Pro Bowl for the 7th time and was named First-Team All-Pro for the 4th time in his career. Troy finished his career with 8 Pro Bowl selections, 4 First-Team All-Pro honors, 2 Super Bowl championships, the 2010 Defensive Player of the Year award, 32 career interceptions, 14 forced fumbles, 12 sacks, 3 defensive touchdowns, and 770 career tackles. He recovered 7 fumbles and blocked a field goal. In 2020, Troy Polamalu was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame on his first ballot, a fitting honor for a player who changed the safety position forever. Chapter 4. The Legacy. Why he can't be replicated. Troy retired after the 2014 season, and the NFL has been trying to find the next Troy Polamalu ever since. They won't. Because Troy wasn't just talented, he played with an instinct that can't be taught, a recklessness that can't be coached, and a heart that can't be measured. He made plays that defensive coordinators tell their players never to attempt because the risk is too high. But for Troy, the risk was always worth it because he saw the game differently than everyone else. There will never be another Troy Polamalu because the game doesn't allow players like him anymore. The NFL has become too calculated, too structured, too afraid of the big gamble. Troy was the last of a dying breed, a player who trusted his instincts over the playbook, who made chaos look like art, and who reminded us why we fell in love with football in the first place. The kid from 10 Mile, Oregon became a Hall of Famer, a champion, and a legend. He didn't just play safety, he reinvented it. And when you watch that 2008 AFC Championship Pick 6 or that 2010 strip sack on Flacco, remember, you're not just watching a great play, you're watching greatness itself. He didn't read the offense, he read their souls. There will never be another Troy Polamalu. Thanks for watching. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and subscribe for more legendary NFL documentaries every single week. Drop a comment with your favorite Troy Polamalu moment. We read every one. End Zone Exposed is where the truth always scores.